Well, hello, Chicago Comic Con, or C2E2. How's everybody doing so far? How's your morning? You can give me a little more energy than that, guys. Thank you. And hi to everybody at home that's following along. We're coming to you live from the C2E2 live stage. And we're obviously here repping SYFY WIRE, and SYFY WIRE is your ultimate stop for everything geek you could possibly ever want in your life, which is all the things. I'm Cher Martinetti, the SYFY WIRE Fangirls managing editor, and we're gonna be talking to a couple of the women that are creators of Red Sonja, which I'm very excited to have this conversation. But really quickly, let's first, before I introduce you guys, we're gonna shout out Joyce Chin, because she was supposed to be joining us for this conversation this morning and had a little bit of a medical emergency.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Joyce, I was just texting her. I'm like, "Where are you?" And she's like, "I'm in the ICU." I'm like, "Holy shit!" Did I just say that?
It's okay. Nobody heard you.
So anyway, she's fine, but you know, she had an aneurysm. So we're all sending our best wishes to her. She's really dying for some dim sum right now in the hospital. So I feel for her, but we really wish she were here, and we wish her to get a speedy recovery.
And I'm really happy to hear that she's frantically texting with you. So
if you know her, she's got the sharpest wit ever. She is like a strong lady. So we're really, you know, I'm going to try to visit her after this is done.
Awesome. Well, like, best wishes for a speedy recovery. And of course, with us today is Amy Chu, writer for Red Sonja, and Maria Laura Sanopo, an artist on Red Sonja. And joining me is my co-host.
I'm Courtney Enla. I'm the associate editor of SYFY WIRE Fangirls.
So yeah, lots of like girl power repping on the stage. Absolutely clap for that. I love it.
Yeah.
He is now my favorite person. That's right. He's making you all look bad. So, I mean, I get like where to even start. This character's been around for such a long time, and she's had so many iterations. And I'm really happy to see that ever since Gail Simone kind of rebooted her, that it seems like she's just been becoming slowly, like, from a cult favorite to a little bit more of a mainstream favorite. So what was your first introduction to Red Sonja?
Oh, wow. That's a good question, because like you said, Red Sonja's been around for so long.
Yeah.
It's really more what sort of iterations. I have to say, actually, it was really Gail's run that really struck me. So when I was offered the job, to me, it was like, okay, we've got to respect what Gail did. But I'm not Gail, you know. Gail's like, you know, she can get really bawdy and stuff like that. That's actually not me. I was like, okay, got to figure out how to do this with my style, but respecting what she did. So that was a real challenge.
What about you, Maria?
Oh, well, I really love Red Sonja character because she's so strong. So I think that beautiful is the new strong, and strong is the new beautiful. Because when I got the job at first I drew some covers for Red Sonja. I was so, oh my God, I was so happy. It was a dream come true because I really love drawing warriors, and I was really, really, really happy. And now I'm very happy to draw her in this Red Sonja and Vampirella Mi Bad in Veronica, written by this gorgeous girl. And yes, I'm very happy to work and very happy to be on the team. And so yes, I really like drawing strong women, and I think that Red Sonja is one of them. So yes, I'm very happy.
And I feel like, I mean, we have the crossover that you guys are working on, which is Red Sonja and Vampirella meet Betty and Veronica. And Red Sonja and Vampirella, I feel like now they're pretty sexy, right? But I feel like they own their sexuality in a way that's become so much more empowering, whereas earlier iterations maybe leaned a little bit on sexploitation, you know? And I love seeing a character kind of evolve from that point to where she is. But let's talk a little bit about this crossover, because Betty and Veronica, I mean, those are two characters that have had quite an evolution themselves. What's it like working on all four of these very classic characters?
Okay, this may be the hardest thing I've ever done. Because, you know, you could just put 4 characters like this together, but it's in reality not just a crossover, but 3 crossovers. So I think the approach that I wanted to take, you know, Red Sonja is the one I'm most familiar with because I did like oh gosh, I did a lot, like 25 issues of Red Sonja. So I already know Red Sonja. I felt like, okay, Vampirella is the one I know the least. So I don't want to, it's going to sound so weird, but the way I was approaching it is kind of almost like a buddy movie. You know, because they're really, there's synergy, right? They're strong women, but, you know, Vampirella, you know, Red Sonja is like a mercenary that basically creates blood that Vampirella can feed off of. So, like, you know, that's the way I was thinking of it. It's like, why wouldn't they be together? If I were Vampirella, she'd be my best friend, right?
Oh, mine too, absolutely.
How did this crossover come about? Like, what sparked that idea for these four characters to come together in this way?
Okay, I would like to say it was my idea, but it was not my idea. In fact, everyone's quite evasive about this. I have to believe that this was an idea that was kicked around between Dynamite and Archie for a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see a lot of crossovers like this. I mean, you see, like, what was it? Archie meets Punisher back in the 90s, you know, so
yeah.
They've done stuff like this before. These are four very popular characters, so I think it's almost a no-brainer that somebody was like, hey, you know, let's put them together and let's see what they can do.
Because that's something about four different kinds of just like badass, amazing women coming together. And what kind of adventures are we going to see them going on?
Like I said, this is the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's all, well, you like the script, right?
Well, I really like the script.
She's like, it's okay, right?
No, I really like the script because, well, first of all, she's very willing to help me. If I have something to ask, she's always there to answer. So I think that this is the best thing when you work on a team, because communication is the first thing. So I really love the script because she's very ironic. And really, oh my God, I was looking at it, and it was fantastic because oh my God, really, well. Normally, well, I live with my husband. He's a comic artist too, so he saw me reading the script, and oh my God, oh my God, it was always like that, and I was really amused about it. It's very amazing. So yes, I'm really happy to work on it, even if because it's a very particular job. You know, it's two publishers together, and it's kind of a responsibility if you think about it, because you have to satisfy two different publishers. And yes, really, I really like working on it.
And it's also having to satisfy something with multiple fan bases. I mean, Archie, and even within Archie, you've got, you know, the CW Riverdale folks, and then the old Archie, and then you've got Red Sonja, and then you got the Vampirella fans. So trying to find a story that made sense, that hopefully makes everyone happy and laugh a little bit, you know. I mean, it's action, there's murder mystery, but I wanted to make it fun, you know, just a little humor. Because we can't take this kind of thing too seriously, honestly.
Yeah.
You know?
Wait, you're saying that we shouldn't take it seriously, that Vampirella and Red Sonja are now partnered up with Betty and Veronica in solving murder mysteries.
I thought this was a documentary.
I thought this was a true life story.
It is, kind of, in an alternate universe.
When we actually sat down, you were saying to Laura that you wanted to do something that she would have fun drawing.
Absolutely.
How does that relationship work between the two of you when you're kind of creating these characters and creating this whole wonderful new world?
Well, you know, this is also the great thing about kind of having a female creative team. I was like, you know, this doesn't happen that often. Mm-hmm. So some of the scenes, I was like, I think that she will have fun drawing this particular, like the Veronica's Closet.
Understands my exigencies as a female creator. So
yes.
Veronica's Closet scene where, because, you know, they're going to Riverdale High. Vampirella and Red Sonja cannot walk down the hallways in their normal outfit. It's just not going to happen. So we have, you know, we come out with creative ideas how to work with this, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you think that, like with characters like this, do you think having an all-female creative team kind of changes a lot about the story and how they're approached and how they're showing up on the page?
Well, they are full female characters, so I think that female creators can understand better. Well, we have a lot of fantastic male creators, so I think that they're as female creators. But I think that it can be, yeah, I know, we are very strong together. When female are joining themselves to work, we create a sort of energy which is very strong. So, yes.
Well,
I agree.
Every artist is different too, you know? I think when I work with, it depends. If I know the artist really well, I kind of know what they know and what they don't know and what they prefer to draw. And sometimes I have to get into more panel description. Like if they're American artists versus a European artist or a Brazilian artist, there's certain things I will call out more. So similarly, I feel like, you know, like I don't think I gave you a lot of description. You know, it was like you can dress them however for the most part, but there's certain things that I wanted to call out, like the motorcycle jacket. That was just a reference to my earlier run with Red Sonja. So things like that. But other than that, I was like, well, you know, we should have fun doing this.
Absolutely. I was free to create the comic. So she gave me some directions, but she gave me also the freedom as an artist to create the characters, to make them act. So yes, it was very, very, it was amazing for this reason, absolutely.
I love the Vampirellas boots, by the way. The way
Oh,
you
you
did
like
the
it?
boots. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so complicated for you to
Oh.
draw going forward. But these are the things where I'm like, cool, you know, now I know you can do that. Now, some other artists, I would have been like, you know, they wouldn't have paid as much attention to the boots. I'll be like, oh, well, you know, that's the way it goes.
Well, I must say that Vampirella is one of my favorite. And yes, I really, oh my God.
Kind of going back to what Cher was saying earlier about how these characters have been kind of sexualized over their runs. Coming to these characters as female creators, coming for, you know, Red Sonja, Vampirella, who can be exploited in other hands and have been in the past, what do you think of while you're writing them that make them empowered?
You know what? I'm treating them as humans, even though they're not all human. But personalities. I mean, they are characters, not images. And I think that is the problem for you know, previous storylines, not just for women, but for certain characters where they're very two-dimensional. I mean, these are very complicated characters with complicated histories. And I think if you really approach it from that point of view, and also how they interact, that's what is important to me. So, you know, once you take that approach, I think that changes the whole ball game. It's not about how sexy they are. It's about what is their motivation in the story? Why are they even in this story? And what do they bring to it? You know, and Vampirella happens to rock fabulous boots at the same time now.
I totally agree with her, absolutely.
Yeah. I know that, you know, in addition to Vampirella and Red Sonja both having the type of history they've had, Betty and Veronica too. I mean, they, up until really recently, honestly, their backstory was always kind of this kind of toxic relationship where it's like, we can't be two girls that exist in the same space without like wanting to call each other's eyes out and fight over this boy who's like, come on, have you seen Archie? He's not all that. But,
Right?
Right. It's like, you know, a dude wrote that because no way is a woman saying two girls are fighting over Archie. But nowadays, it seems like they're becoming more, there's an actual friendship between them, and the dynamic of their relationship has changed a lot, both in the comics and in Riverdale. So how are we going to see that relationship?
Oh yeah. So I do totally talk about this. I forgot what issue are we on now? Everything is a blur.
What issue?
You're drawing two now.
Yeah, I'm
Okay, all right.
starting
so
to
I
now.
need to make
Yeah.
sure I get you through.
Yeah.
So this is Betty and Veronica's story. This is not about Archie, although I will tell you, he does make a cameo where we specifically say, this is not your story. So I thought that was
That's amazing.
She say that. She says that in the first
Go get a
issue.
burger with Jughead. No one needs you right now.
This is really their story, and in many ways they are more interesting. In fact, Red Sonja does join the football team of Riverdale, so there's a spoiler right there.
I love that so much. And that's going into, you know, Betty and Veronica's past interactions with each other. I remember reading Archie comics as a kid, and it's just a lot of like petty sniping.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no pettiness here.
Yeah.
I'm not into petty.
And both those girls are too good for him, let's be
Yes.
honest.
But all four of these characters, how did you kind of come up with how they all four would interact? Because they are from disparate worlds.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, let's not pretend they're all similar. The fact is they're all so different. So the trick for me as a writer and for you as an artist is to play up those differences and how that all works together and how in the end they're all going to catch this mysterious serial killer in Riverdale High. And that's the real story. So they're not all necessarily getting along, and they're all different, but respecting those differences. And there's definitely some funny clashes along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that, to kind of switch gears a little bit, there was going to be a Red Sonja movie. Now it's on hold indefinitely. And I know that when they had announced the movie, of course, there was discourse about it on social media because Bryan Singer was slated to direct it. He's a tad problematic, putting it mildly. How did you feel when you first heard the announcement that he may have been taking the reins on this film? And how did you feel hearing like, okay, now it's not happening, and who would you like to see taking the reins on Red Sonja? So this is a multi-layered question.
This is the reality of working in licensed comics. These are not our characters. We are hired to do the best job we can with an existing character. And the world of comics is such a different world from the Hollywood world. So when these things happen, it's almost like it's a different universe over there. I almost feel like it doesn't really impact us as much because we have so little to say or control about it. Even though I spent a lot of time with this particular character, how she is going to end up, on screen could be entirely different. Although I will say that I did get to see the actual screenplay, and it's fabulous because we respected a lot of what Gail had done and in general. But I don't really know the future for that at all. And that I have no say.
Yeah.
Wish I did. But
if you did, like right now, you have
I
say.
did.
In this universe, on this panel, you have
universe,
say.
I think there's a lot of opportunity to do good with this character. I mean, there's a lot of fabulous female directors who could do an amazing job with it. A lot of
I think so.
Right?
Yes, I agree.
So
Yes.
there is a great opportunity here. So I just hope that they do right by that. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
I would love to be involved, but that's not my,
Yeah.
They are different worlds.
Yeah.
Comics and movies are very separated. Sometimes not, but
But and I found that so interesting because I know like look at Captain Marvel, that was heavily drawn from Kelly Sue's iteration of the character, and yet maybe they might have asked her a couple questions, whatever, as a consultant. But I think it's just so fascinating when you have people that they're the ones that created these characters, and they're actually not as involved as you would expect. Do you think that it's better off that way?
No. But it's just the way that things, we are work for hire. This is, so they actually don't have to even give us credit, honestly. So it's a very weird kind of, obviously I think it's, I will say that we should advocate more for credit and for it, but it largely depends on the company and the individual contracts. For example, I worked on a Vertigo book that never got produced, but there were language in there that gave me some ownership for that particular book if it got to a TV or film. So there are differences, but it also depends on which company and which.
Yeah, and in a Vertigo, Image also is because it's owner created, and they make it a point to let the creators still have that ownership. Do you think that that's kind of the future of comics? Because I know way back in the day, they used to not even credit writers for even writing on a book.
Well, so look at the trends that are happening right now, especially look at all the properties that are happening. There were Image, like the Deadly Class, for example. There's a lot of content, and smart creators will figure out a way to do that. But if it's an existing IP that's not ours. I mean, I love working on Archie and I love working on Red Sonja because these are classic characters. So it's an honor to be able to do that, but that's not my character. If I create my own character, maybe you guys will read it, maybe you won't. You know, if Image picks it up, but we're sort of at this like golden opportunity now with Netflix and Hulu and everybody hoovering up content. There's a real good opportunity here for creators
Absolutely.
to do something where we can see our own, you know, creative content
absolutely.
on a bigger screen.
That kind of hired hand mentality, I think it's really practical and probably the healthiest way to kind of disassociate yourself so you don't get too in depth.
I still have a mortgage to pay.
Yeah.
If I just
Me
created
too.
a new
Like
character,
a check is a check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've worked a lot on Red Sonja. Do you feel like a connection and to some extent a bit of an ownership of your character work
Wow,
that
that
you've
is
done?
an interesting question, and actually, no. The connections I feel. First of all, I never expected to write as much Red Sonja as I did. It just kept going. And then I was like, okay, it's done. They're like, no, the sales are actually going up. I'm like, well, how is that even possible? I don't know what's going on anymore. I loved working on the character, but it's the characters I created as part of her world. I feel more connection because I had to come up with those from scratch.
Right.
Now with Red Sonja, it was really more of a problem-solving thing because, you know, I'm trying to sort of fix certain things. I'm like, okay, she needs to be more, she's now in the modern world, how is she going to react? So it's more like that. So my emotional attachment is not really to her, but to all the buddies I had to create to help her in the modern world and then get back to the, you know, to the Hyborian age.
It's a challenge, you know, and putting Red Sonja in Vampirella, who normally, Red Sonja especially kills people, you know, to solve a crime in the modern world, it's a challenge, it's a big challenge, so.
How do you bring your mark on these, you know, these long-standing classic characters in terms of art to make it your own style?
Well, I'm lucky because I have a very rounded style, but I use the chiaroscuro, so I can be suitable for Archie comics and for Dynamite at the same time. So I was lucky enough to get a job. So they chose me, and I was so honored to take that job. So yes, that's the point.
So I know we actually we have a podcast for fangirls. It's called Strong Female Characters. And for this month, Women's History Month, we've been doing a limited series called Forgotten Women, a Genre. And during the episodes, some of the episodes have focused on female comic book creators. A lot of people don't really know nearly as much about as they should because they've been really instrumental in their in what they've put into certain characters and how that's changed the direction. Wonder Woman's one of them. And another thing that comes up a lot when we're reading and learning about these women is how often there were not many women around them to really help them and guide them in their careers. And in some instances, that lack of kinship and sisterhood and being surrounded by men that just did not want them there made them leave their jobs. I know you've both been in comics for, you know, a while now. One, who are some women that you feel were kind of inspiration and role models for you in the industry? And two, do you see like a changing now where there are more women in comics and because of it, it's helping more women or non-binary or, you know, women of color get into comics? Because I know like Asian representation, Asian women are still among the most underrepresented demographic in media. So can you talk a little bit about that? You can take turns.
Okay, yeah, no, for sure.
That's a big question, I know.
It's a big question, but it's an important question. I would say there's been a huge change only in the last couple of years. There's so many more women now.
More
I
women
think
in the comics.
we feel free. I will say that I think there are certain environments that have been, until recently, more toxic. But I think that with the influx of a lot of female editors, a lot of the companies now have like 50% female editors. I don't know that people even realize that. More and more women are getting hired as writers, as creators, as artists.
Yes.
I think that's been a huge change. I started, in fact, this was my first convention, 2011. When I came here, And literally, this was my first time. I'm walking through and I'm like, we're looking to hire artists, and you know, like getting harassed. You know, at 2011, totally changed within a couple years. You know, I mean, and this is one of those things where I'm like, really, like, what is this, like 60s Mad Men? You know, this is just not cool.
Yeah.
And I think that part of it is a cultural thing that people were allowed to get away with certain types of behavior for a long time. But now with Me Too, people are getting called out on it. I'm not saying that it's disappeared. I think people now realize there are rules, there are ramifications for behavior within the companies and outside the companies. So I think it's much better when people say, oh my God, I encourage every woman to get into comics. This is a good time.
Me too.
You know, you should not be worried about, oh my God, it's like, you know, I'm gonna be subjected to toxic fanboy behavior. Actually, there's just toxic fan behavior in general.
Yeah.
But we have, you know, we have a lot of women that we, I just had breakfast with a bunch of women.
A lot of talented women.
Yeah. So.
And it feels like you said earlier, and I can only speak from my own experience, but like when you are working with a bunch of other women, it does change things, you know, because you feel like not only are there people that understand and they get it, but I think whenever you're part of a demographic that's been so underrepresented, you've always had to work so hard just to get seen. And then you put a bunch of those people together on something and it's like everyone is like busting their ass together. And it is it's inspiring. And it's amazing when you find other people that are speaking that language.
It's nice because we actually can work on the comic and not have to worry about another layer of things that, you know, the glass ceiling, other things, signaling, weird texts, you know, all these things I don't have to worry about when I'm dealing with Maria, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's awesome. Ladies, thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning.
Thank you for having us here.
I mean, we could hang out all day. We could just go backstage and hang out. Thank you to everybody that hung out with us. Stay tuned right here. We have so much coming up this weekend. You can stay with all of it by following the hashtag C2E2, hashtag It's a Fan Thing. Coming up, we have the Curiosity Daily Podcast live.